I felt empowered in that, okay, what am I going to do? What can I do to make a difference? What can I do to honor my daughter? And it changed my life. It changed my world. I wake up every day looking forward to the day. I put my feet on the floor. What can I do to honor Carly? And what can I do to help another parent? And the magic happens on a regular basis, and it's pretty exciting.
Welcome to the Light the Day podcast, where we explore spiritually transformative experiences. Today, I have on the show Irene Vouvalides. Hi, Irene. It's
Hey,
nice to see
Julie,
you.
nice to see you.
Will you start us out by just introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Um, I am a shining light mom, and for those of you that don't know that, that's a term that Suzanne Giesemann coined for those of us that have had a child or children transition in spirit. I will not call myself bereaved. I feel like bereaved is one of the saddest words in the dictionary. But my name
Absolutely.
is Irene Vouvalides. My greatest accomplishment is my daughter Carly, who now resides in spirit. I am the vice president of the international support group called Helping Parents Heal. I am also their conference chair. I'm a chapter leader and affiliate leader of the Hilton Head Bluffton chapter group. I am also a co-affiliate leader of a couple of online Zoom groups, one of them for those of us who no longer have a child that walks or children that walk on this earth. So my life is pretty much helping parents heal. And in my spare time, I enjoy cooking and I love to play golf. Golf is my escape. And when I'm on the golf course, I'm just playing golf. I'm not in any grief space. I'm not doing anything other than being in nature and getting frustrated a lot of times.
That's amazing. And you live in a beautiful place for golfing.
Yes. Yes, we live in Hilton Head, South Carolina. After Carly passed, my husband was ready to retire. I could no longer function as a working person, and we retired to Hilton Head, and it turned out to be such a great decision.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I am a huge proponent of focusing on a little ball. Like that was one of my healing pastimes was chasing a tennis ball. So I was
Oh,
all
okay.
about focusing on that little yellow ball. So it's a beautiful thing. Very fun. Well, take us back, Irene, and share a little bit about what your life was before before Carly passed and just share a little bit about your story so we can get to
Sure.
know. Yeah.
Sure. I grew
Thanks.
up in northern New Jersey, right near near Manhattan, right near the George Washington Bridge. Um, I was a dental hygienist. I was a mom, and I just loved being a mom. And it's interesting because for Carly's entire short life, she was had just turned 24 when she passed. But I always had this feeling that she wasn't mine forever.
Mm,
And I remember at her college graduation, I turned to my husband, who's not her biological father, and I said, all these years I worried about her. And look, she's made it to college. She graduated college. She's going to live in Boston. And I worried for nothing. 11 months later, she was diagnosed with esophageal gastric cancer and passed just 4 months after her diagnosis.
wow.
So, and one of my dear friends reminded me at her celebration of life that her son and Carly were born within a few days of each other. We actually met at Lamaze class. And she said, when the kids were about 4 years old, I said to her, Nancy, will I still be a mom when something happens to Carly? I have no recollection of ever saying that, but I think, as you well know, our souls know what is going to happen, and we get little glimpses of that through our life and through our children's. lives.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
fascinating because I had experiences before my kids passed and that didn't make any sense at
Mhm.
the time, and that's so fascinating that you've had that experience. I often hear parents talk about that, or they will find things that their kids have left behind that were indicators that their kids knew because, like you said, the soul knows.
Oh, and I think Carly, on a soul level, knew as well. She did everything at an extreme pace. She hit the ground running. If she was going to sew, I would wake up in the morning. She was an avid sewer. My grandmother was a seamstress, and she would have been up all night sewing a dress or a skirt or slip covers. I woke up one morning and she had painted her room in the night. She had painted the bathroom another time. Her college friends told stories at her celebration of life that I had no idea. I mean, she would wake them up. She went to Boston College. So I guess they were about an hour from a beach. I'm not sure. And she would wake them up 5 o'clock in the morning, put them in the car, a bunch of kids, and say, we have to go see the sunrise on the beach. And,
Wow.
I have a feeling, again, her soul knew that her time here was going to be limited. And she tried to pack in as much and as many experiences as she could.
Yeah. She is definitely, I mean, I can just feel it. She's a force to be reckoned with, isn't she?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can smile and I can talk about her now because I do have a continued relationship with her. In the
Hmm.
beginning, if a sign would have hit me in the face, I wouldn't have known it. And that first 6 months after her passing was a very difficult time for me. My husband says that he didn't think I would be able to live without her. And what kept me alive, my husband was widowed. His first wife passed of pancreatic cancer. And I just would say, Tony can't be twice widowed. And that kind of became my mantra. And it was, my dad was still alive. My mom had passed, and I had to be here for my dad and I had to be here for my husband. But I lived in a precarious world where I didn't want to live, but I didn't want to die. I really didn't know what to do. I was anxiety ridden. For a brief time, I was under psychiatric care because I didn't sleep. And after 7 days of not sleeping, I spoke to a psychiatrist who, it turned out to be a wonderful experience for me. And when I stopped having sessions with her, she handed me a book. I'm sorry, an author's name. And she said, I think you should start reading these books. And they were books by Dr. Brian Weiss,
Oh, okay. Okay.
which helped me tremendously. But I had someone reach out to me and help me, another mom who I had met through a friend, and her son had passed at that time 7 years prior. And she became, I like to say, she was like my life preserver. She threw it out to me and I held on to it. And I kept saying, well, if she can do it, maybe I can. And really meeting someone who had experienced what I had was a great help. And about 9 months after Carly passed, I made an appointment to see a medium. My sister and I made an appointment to go to Long Island and to have a session with George Anderson, which was the first step in transforming my life.
Mm.
Um, we, of course, now I know that mediums have such integrity, and you really don't have to worry, but we used a different name, and, we did all sorts of things. And I set the intention that I just wanted to know that Carly was okay, that she wasn't frightened when she passed. It was very traumatic. And we sat down, and within 5 minutes, George looked at me and said, you've had a child that's passed. He said, she wants you to stop obsessing about her passing. It was as easy as walking through a doorway. And he said, oh, your mom was there to greet her.
Uh,
So that just, changed everything for me. Of
yeah.
course, the grief is still there. The missing is still there. I mean, we'll go through our lives wishing our children were here on earth, but as a parent, you just want to know that your children are okay. And whether in the spirit world or here walking the earth, if you know they're okay, then your job is done. So that really changed everything for me.
How long ago did she pass?
In 2 weeks, it'll be 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah,
Okay. And
yeah,
you have certainly lived a lot of life since then.
I
And
have.
all the work that you're doing. So before you went to this medium, did you have some spiritual sense of her being around? Were you like, was that something that you were familiar with? Did you have any kind of belief system around spirit communication or continuation of life or any of that?
I was raised Catholic, and I like to call myself a lapsed Catholic. Once I was old enough to not have to partake in organized religion, that was the end for me. And I have an older brother and sister who were both very much involved in a spiritual world. So I did learn a lot about it. I did have a belief system in an afterlife. I most definitely believed in an afterlife. I knew that God wasn't a person sitting on a throne as I was taught in my catechism classes, and there certainly wasn't a hell, brimstone and fire, but I didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we get thrown into it, and I became an avid reader. The first book I read was Eben Alexander's Proof of Heaven,
Yeah.
which just brought me so much comfort.
Beautiful
And
book. Yeah.
yeah, and that just opened up a world for me between Dr. Brian Weiss with his books, Eben Alexander. I found out about Eternia, which is an organization that Eben is on the board of. And Eben on Eternia spoke of Mark Ireland and his book, Soul Shift, Finding Where the Dead Go. Read that book, found out about Helping Parents Heal, which is an organization that Elizabeth Boisson and Mark Ireland co-founded after Elizabeth's son transitioned at the base camp of Mount Everest in 2009. And 2 weeks later, Elizabeth started a support group, which
Wow.
became Helping Parents Heal. She had a shared death experience when Morgan passed,
Hmm.
and she knew he was okay.
Yeah. It makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It makes all the
yes.
difference.
Yeah, I probably could have saved myself a lot of suffering, but we all know that we go through what we are supposed to go through. And I think because I was in such a dark place that I'm able to help parents, I know how they feel. And
Yeah.
once I found my way, I reached out to Elizabeth. I met Elizabeth, and if you know Elizabeth, you know she is an angel on this earth. She is a fairy. She is just the most wonderful, wonderful person. And she helped me tremendously. When my husband and I moved to Hilton Head just a year after Carly passed, I started a chapter of Helping Parents Heal. And it was so funny because it's a very small community, and I reached out to the local newspaper to see if they would come and talk so I could advertise my first meeting. And I moved into a community where I really didn't know anyone. We moved with friends, but we moved into this gated community. I didn't know a lot of people. And this wonderful reporter came to the house. In fact, she's very famous now. She did the Murdoch series
Oh,
after
okay.
that in South Carolina. Liz Farrell became famous for doing that. But she came to the house, did a great interview, and then a couple days later, the Island Packet, which is the local newspaper, had as a headline, I have it here, "Finding Hope in the Afterlife." So it was all out in the community because it was all about, spiritually transformative experiences and how I found my way by believing in the afterlife. So that
Yeah.
was that was very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And you mentioned that it was super challenging and you went through this really hard space for several months after your daughter died and then you had this experience with this medium. Where did you go from there after you met with this medium? Did you see other mediums? What was kind of your path?
Um, after that experience, of course, the profound sadness doesn't leave, and with time, it does lessen. I like when people talk about we build around our sadness or our grief, and the knowing. So I really dove deeper in and read more books, um, started taking some online classes, found out about Suzanne Giesemann, who, as most people know in the spiritual community, she was a former naval officer who had her stepdaughter pass. She was struck and killed by lightning. And Suzanne found out through studying that she was a medium, and she's a very famous medium and a well recognized teacher. And I started following her work, went to Florida to take some classes with her, got involved in this bigger community. I went to an IONS conference. I went to a couple of other afterlife conferences, met other people, and my world just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I started having these incredible experiences. Um, my reading with Suzanne about, I think it was about a year later. I'm so sad now that I didn't journal in the beginning. I could not get myself
Mhm.
to put it on paper. So many people find comfort in that. But for me, even though it was real, having to read it and to look at it, I couldn't do that. And I tell people on this journey, you have to do what you're comfortable with. But now I wish I would have had a better timeline. And I had a reading with Suzanne that was mind blowing, transformative. There was no doubt that Carly was right there, that she was with me, that she was always with me. But I was so deep in my grief, I couldn't feel her. And that was the beginning of experiencing, oh, wow, she is right here. She's
Yeah.
right here. She's in another dimension. She's not somewhere else. And the concept of time, there is no time.
Mm.
We saw our children 5 minutes ago, and we're going to see them in 5 minutes. And all of that was just so comforting. So, so, so comforting. And I got very involved with helping parents heal. And since I had gone to so many conferences in 2017, I had said to Elizabeth, well, we need to have a conference for helping parents heal. And she very kindly said, do you have any idea what goes into, planning a conference and having one? And I said, no, I'm a retired dental hygienist. I don't know. I think I could figure it out. And I was asked to be on the board of Helping Parents Heal. The board agreed that we would have a conference. It was very scary because you're making a large financial commitment.
Absolutely.
We had a conference in another part of Arizona in 2018. We had 450 people attend the conference, and it was one of the best experiences that I have ever experienced, being in the presence of people who have been through what you've been through, people who get it, was just amazing.
Well, and as you say that, I just can't help but think about all those kids. Oh, it just makes me want to cry. All those kids on the other side making that happen, bringing all their moms and dads together, bringing all that. I know my kids have communicated to me that, it was hard to see me go through so much pain
Yeah.
when in those early days of grief, and they were right there. But like you said, you can't tell from that perspective of where you're at in that, lower
Yeah.
frequency or vibration, or just that, emotion, heavy emotion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. And we had a mom. I mean, there's so many stories from that first conference, but one mom said she sat in the parking lot and she just couldn't get herself to walk in. And she finally did, but she said to her son in spirit, I need a sign when I walk into the hotel lobby. If I don't find a sign from you, then I'm going to go home. I wasn't meant to be here. And she walked into the lobby. Now, this is April in Arizona, and the lobby was filled with hockey jerseys. I don't know why. I still don't know the story. And there was a hockey jerseys that were in glass from famous hockey players. And there was a number, I think it was the number 14. And her son was a hockey player. and that was his number,
Wow.
and he played hockey. So, there's no doubt. Her son was right there. "Come on, mom. Come on in.
Yeah.
Meet your people."
Beautiful, beautiful. And it just takes, eyes to see, right? Just
Yes.
an open heart to just allow yourself to believe, even if you can't feel it, you can allow yourself to
You
believe.
can. And I think another thing that's important, Julie, is that we feel so powerless and we feel like we have no control. We had no control. You had no control over what happened with your children. I had no control of Carly getting this horrible illness and passing from it. But when I realized that I did have power in how I chose to live my life, so I could be in a deep, dark place and just wait to die, which, as you know, many parents do. And
Mm.
there's no judging involved in this. If that's what they choose to do, that's what they choose to do. But I knew that Carly would not want me to do that.
Absolutely.
So I felt empowered in that, okay, what am I going to do? What can I do to make a difference? What can I do to honor my daughter? And it changed my life. It changed my world. I wake up every day looking forward to the day. I put my feet on the floor. What can I do to honor Carly? And what can I do to help another parent? And the magic happens on a regular basis, and it's pretty exciting. I mean,
That's
not all days are perfect. Have had some really tough days in the past 6 months, but I've gotten through them. I've gotten through them knowing that Carly was right there with me.
yeah. Yeah, and don't you find that, I find that there's the big sign like the hockey jerseys and the number and all of that to bring all that to be there when she walked in. And then there's the smaller things, there's just the everyday things, and it's allowing ourselves to just kind of be in that space. The bigger things don't happen every day, but when they do, those are fun too. What are
Yeah,
your
and you
thoughts about
really
that?
have to open yourself up to looking for it. Sometimes if you don't look, you don't even realize they'll just pass you by.
Mm-hmm.
And it is fun looking for those signs. Yesterday, February 2nd, I woke up in the morning and I said, "Oh, what's today? 2/2. Oh, I remember. Our beloved Bijan, who Carly had we got Cody when Carly was 4 and he passed when she was in high school. Actually, she was in college. And I remembered February 2nd was Cody's angel date. And I was thinking about Carly and I said, it'd be so nice if you just tune in, just let me know you're there. So we went and played golf. It's the first time we've played in a long time. The weather has not been nice here. And I get golf balls from a company. They're used golf balls, but they're like in mint condition, but they're a lot less expensive. So I reach in. I got 5 dozen golf balls and I had them in this sack. And I reach in to take 3 balls to go play. And I look, and one of the golf balls, I wish I had it. I'll send you a picture. Golf ball, a big CH. So someone had initialed the golf ball. It's my daughter's initials, and it's Cody's initials. Carly Hughes, Cody Hughes. So there's
Wow.
that golf ball that I played golf with yesterday, and it was Carly's way of saying, "I'm here." Cody's way of saying, "I'm here."
Yeah, and sometimes people will say, "Well, I had this remembrance of them, or this reminded me of them, but like, how do I know that they're here?" And I just my thought always is, if you feel that, like if you feel that tug on your heart that they might be there, then accept it. Just embrace all of it, rather
Oh,
than
yeah.
question. It's just a happier way to live.
It is. And when you go from that skeptical mind to that, "Oh, isn't this interesting?" Suzanne Giesemann always says that, "Isn't that interesting?" And it really becomes magical. I mean, it truly, really does. And if we're wrong when we cross over, oh, so then, what harm has come from this? But it's not going to be.
Yeah.
We know when we cross over, your children and my daughter will be the first people that are there to greet us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's it's a extra layer of magic to open our heart to realize that we have so much love and support around us all the time, even when we're alone. We have all this heavenly love and support around us, this spirit love and support around us. So, y- you mentioned meeting with George and meeting with Suzanne for
Mhm.
reading, mediumship reading. How did you begin to connect?
Um, just by, I think, from taking some classes and realizing that it really does become a need to open your heart, open your mind, raise your vibration through whatever means. I'm not the best meditator. I do meditate. I like my meditation walking in nature. I'm not real good about quieting my mind, but it really became just asking. I ask a silent ask. I ask my parents to check in. I ask Carly to check in. I um, also talk to them all the time, silently in my mind. Always talk, always ask questions, and the answers happen to appear, they just appear. So I think for everyone, it's different. I certainly I wish that I was a medium, but I know that that's not what I'm supposed to do on this earth. I'm supposed to be in this position of leadership, if you want to call it that, to help others. I'm not supposed to be um, taking it a step further. I absolutely have gotten messages not only from Carly, but from others. Um, when I first started our group here in Hilton Head, I was taking a lot of mediumship development classes at that time and really putting to use what they taught us. Ask the questions, spend the time in silence. For me, water has always been a conduit for spirit. And we were having a meeting that day, and we had a group of parents who had all had recent losses. And it's very difficult to stand in front of a group smiling, talking about, your life being wonderful when these people have been where you were years before. So you have to be very mindful of it. So I was in the shower that day and I had a couple coming, two moms whose daughter had passed in a car accident. And I decided to talk to their daughter in the shower. And I said, Grace, can you please just tell me something? Tell me something that I can help your moms today when they come to the meeting. And like that, I heard in my own voice, it's not that I'm hearing a different voice. I heard my voice and I heard, tell my mom to do my laundry. It's gross and it's disgusting. I thought, oh, great. What kind of a message is that? Here are these women that I don't really know that I'm going to tell them I think I have a message from their daughter. So one of the moms was at the meeting. We've become very, very close friends. And I said, Heidi, I don't know what this means, but here's what I heard from Grace. She said, oh, that's interesting. I don't do the laundry in my house, in our house. Kristen does. When I go home, I'll ask Kristen. I get a text, OMG. So you know right away that it definitely was a message. And Grace was a track star and a track runner. And there was a hamper full of very smelly track clothes that Kristen could not get herself to do the laundry. She just left them there. And it was about, I think it was 5 weeks at that point that Grace had passed. So that's a
Wow.
message. That was a message.
Wow. So interesting. I bet you have several dozen messages or stories like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I've heard so many amazing things about the conferences you guys have put on. I know that this past year it was sold out. I think you had a little bit of um, a, a pause in there because of uh, COVID, possibly.
We had our first conference in 2018, and we were planning on having one in 2020 when the world came crashing to a halt.
Exactly.
And then we had another conference in 2022. So we had 450 at our first conference. Our second conference in 2022, we were a little over 900, I think. And this past August, we had 1,100 people. So we
Wow.
maxed out the hotel. We sold out in months and had a waiting list. Even as we went to the conference, there was still a wait list to attend the conference.
Wow.
And it was interesting because we turned registration on the end of December of 2023. The conference was August of 2024. And Elizabeth is a technical person, and we were getting the website ready, getting the registration ready. We had a test run. We weren't sure when we were going to start. We went to bed that night, and I was woken up by Spirit in the middle of the night. You left the button on for registration, and people are registering. I went,
Oh.
3 o'clock in the morning, I run to the computer. Sure enough, we had left the registration button on and there were people registering. The registration wasn't ready. I mean, people were literally waiting for it to go on, and I guess someone in some time zone. So I quickly shut the registration off and had to reach out to those people, but who knows what could have happened. So yeah, Carly is very active, very much a part. And I've been told by a lot of mediums that she's the gatherer and brings the kids together.
Yeah, I can definitely sense that. In fact, when I met you a year ago, I was at Suzanne Giesman's event in
Mhm.
Savannah a year ago in January, I should say. And so January 2024. And I felt your daughter there then. And as we talked, today, I'm like, and I sense that about her for sure. For sure. It's so wonderful. So, you had mentioned that, share a little bit about, like, I know you've got a lot of different offerings in helping parents heal, and that this is a little different. The one of the things that a few years ago, I had an experience in 2012 when, 'cause my children died in 2007, 2007. And in 2012, I had this experience where somebody said, "You're supposed to do something with this." And it was as if like lightning struck me when they said that. And so I spent several months and literally years trying to figure out what that was.
Mhm.
And but but in my observation of the grief space, because my kids died in 2007. Facebook wasn't a thing. Instagram wasn't a thing. We didn't have the social media that we have now. And the landscape of grief support online is dismal. It's
It
really,
is.
really, I've heard that from so many people that come to me and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't find, everything is just depressing and so forth." And of course, it is super sad. So of course, there's that. But I got connected with helping parents heal several years ago. I can't remember when I found you guys, but it's such
Mhm.
a um, breath of fresh air. Even when you think about, shining parents, shining light parents, am I saying
Yeah,
that
shining
correctly?
light parents. Yes.
I love that so much. In fact, will you share a little more about what that means, shining
Sure.
light parents? Because I love it and I know that I've heard it um, explained in different ways.
So language for helping parents heal is very important. It's very important for everyone, as we well know. We choose to not say the word death on a regular basis. Yes, our children's bodies have died, but they are very much alive. We correct anyone who says committed suicide. You
Mm,
commit a crime, you complete suicide, you've died by suicide.
yeah,
Bereaved, you just say the word bereaved and it just brings your vibration down. Grief work, we like to call it healing work.
I love that.
So there are so many things that you can say, and shining light parents, everyone who's had a child pass has always been known as a bereaved parent. And what we like to say, and Suzanne Giesemann coined this phrase, is that a shining light parent, in the beginning, our children are the shining lights, showing us the light. And in time, we become that shining light that helps someone else find the light. So, as a shining light parent, doesn't that sound so much better than saying, I'm a bereaved parent? No, I'm a shining light parent. And in the beginning, I wasn't a shining light parent.
Yeah.
And I say that to everyone because we certainly don't want people to be turned off by it. But our group is different that we believe in a continued connection with our children. The only thing that has changed is that they no longer have bodies. They're very much alive. As we all know, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. It's not the other way around. This is school, our kids are home. Call it
Yeah.
heaven, call it nirvana, call it what you want, but it's a whole different way of thinking.
I love that so much. Words are so important.
So powerful.
I lost my brother to suicide, and when I, years and years ago, and I just loved that new way of looking at it, died by suicide, because it's so important to recognize, and I won't go into all of that, but I just think it's so important. It's so important.
It
And
is
and
important.
as I connect with him now, he is a shining light. And there's so much fear around the process that a person goes through to transition from this life to a spirit life, and there's so much fear around that, but we don't really we don't need to be fearful. It doesn't matter how the transition happened. They are welcomed and loved, and they are in the shining light. They are truly shining lights. And I love everything that you said. And I think that just gives so much hope to people, so much hope. And as you're talking about, I'm so grateful for people that had gone through challenges, and then they were in a better place to turn around and offer me a hand
Yes.
as I went through my healing journey. And then, I have an opportunity to turn around and give a hand to someone else who's going through their healing journey. And as you were talking about, I could just see it's like this, just this line of people reaching back, helping the next person. It's so beautiful.
And don't you feel that you heal a little bit more every time that you're involved in someone else's healing?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an ongoing process. And I tell parents all the time that suicide, cancer, car accident, it's just a method of leaving this earth. That's all it
Right,
is. It
right.
presented itself, the opportunity presented, and that's the way that our kids, our loved ones got to go home.
Yeah, yeah. It's I often tell people I I came to understand that my kids were not meant to be here longer than 8 and 10 years. And I had a choice. I could be their mom for 8 and 10 years, or I could not have been their mom and they would have connected with a different mom. I don't know, that. and
Right.
and so I choose all day long to be their mom, even if it was here for only 8 and 10 years. And so that's it just and it's interesting too, because my kids died in an accident. It was a one car accident and I was the driver of the car. And so there was a lot, I went through a lot of I'm just going to say self-hatred, because I was the means by which they exited this world. That was the way the way that I viewed it. But I had walked into, it was 6 months after they passed away. And I'm just confirming everything that you're saying, because I'm 100% with everything that you're sharing here. As It was like less than 6 months after they passed away, that I was walking into a store. I thought of my daughter, and then that shock came that
Hmm.
she's not here. And in my head, like you were talking about, talking to spirit, in my head, I was like, why did this have to happen? And I heard they're right where they're supposed to be. And I said, why did it have to happen like this? And the answer was so perfect because it was, how would you have liked it to happen?
Yeah.
And so it's, it's just recognizing that these are just circumstances. There's no blame, and that's hard for us to wrap our head around, especially if it's
It
new.
is.
It
Mm-hmm.
takes time, it takes effort, it takes um, devotion to the healing process to move through these things. But I just love all the things that you're sharing.
Well, when you talked about your guilt, every parent that I have spoken to, no matter how their child has passed, has the guilt and puts the blame on themselves. I was convinced that my breast milk must have been tainted, and that's how Carly got cancer. I let her roll around in grass that had been treated by chemicals. I mean, we have these irrational thoughts, and yes, for what you went through, definitely very traumatic. But again, it was the means of your children going
Yeah,
home.
yeah, yeah.
That's what it was. And it's amazing when you really need to delve in and to go deep to get these answers and to be able to come to the realization.
And the answers are there. The
They are
answers are
there.
there. And our kids and our other loved ones who have passed before are all here whispering in our ear, encouraging us forward. So,
They are,
um,
and our children do not want to be remembered by how they left this earth. They want to be
no,
remembered by the days they lived and what they did on this earth. I
yeah.
will also add that I feel I did trauma recovery therapy, and I think that helped me tremendously because as much as I connected with Carly and as much as the mediums, brought her to me, I still experienced the trauma. My sister is a licensed clinical social worker, and she does a lot of holistic spiritual work, and she does trauma recovery work. That's her specialty, and she does free sessions for anyone who'd like to join Helping Parents Heal, 2 hours every month for trauma recovery. And when I was able to go through the trauma recovery, it stopped me from looping and going backwards. I was able to go forward because trauma affects you. My sister calls it the shock and lock. The shock happens and then it gets locked in your brain. PTSD is
Mhm.
real.
Yes.
And most parents who have experienced the passing of a child, I believe, experience PTSD. And I think trauma recovery is underlooked in grief therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I went through EMDR
Yes.
to
Yes,
overcome
that was part of the trauma recovery.
PTSD. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, finding the resources that we need, that's part of the process, isn't it?
Yeah,
All
I
the
invite everyone
resources.
to go onto the Helping Parents Heal website. We have, 600 videos. We have recommended providers. We have mediums and therapists and healers and just a wealth of information. Even if you haven't had a child pass, you can find out a lot of information.
And a very active Facebook group.
Yes, so the Facebook group, when we had our first conference in 2018, we were around 7,000, and I think we're hovering at 29,000 right now. And it's a very sacred group. We have a few administrators. I'm one of them. You can't join the group unless we can prove that you are a Shining Light parent. We have post approval, so we look at everything. We want people to share the transformation. We've all got a sad story, and we're not a group of my story is worse than yours.
Yeah.
We're a group of share how you're healing and where you are.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I recommend to anybody if you're on Facebook, if you've had this experience of losing a child, definitely connect with Helping Parents Heal on Facebook and the website, and so many beautiful resources. So, Irene, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
I'd love to share a magical conference story if I could.
Absolutely.
At our first conference, I had certain things that I really wanted, and I love Garth Brooks' song "The Dance." It's a very special song, and a lot of people played it at their children's memorial services. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be nice if we could get Garth Brooks to, come to the conference or maybe even just talk. And I wrote letters and record companies. Nothing worked. So about 6 months before the conference, I gave it up. I said it just wasn't meant to be. That's okay. The next day, my husband's niece, our niece, called me up and said, "Hey, Aunt Irene, I'm going to a wedding in Nashville." I said, "Ariana, how cool is that?" She said, "Yeah, but guess whose house the wedding is at?" I said, "Well, I don't know whose house." Trisha Yearwood and Garth Brooks. So my niece is a chiropractor, and one of her patients is either management or something with Garth, and the manager's daughter was getting married, and Garth offered to have it. So of course I got my connection, and we have a beautiful welcome video on our website from the first conference with Garth Brooks, and then we played the dance to a slideshow of all our children in spirit. So we get to
Wow.
the next conference in 2022, and I said, I want Eric Clapton I want him to say something so we could play Tears in Heaven.
Yes, yes.
We know his son passed in 1991. Same thing, couldn't do it, let it go. We didn't have a song for the conference. But this year, at the very workshop that you were talking about in Savannah, Suzanne Giesman is a friend and a neighbor, and she asked me if I would help her that weekend, of course. So we're driving in the car to Savannah. It's about 35 minutes, 40 minutes away. She said, "How is conference planning going?" I said, "It's going really well, but I really had this vision about having Eric Clapton make a video for the conference, but I can't get through to him." She's driving a car and she goes like this and says, "Oh, well, Melia Clapton, his wife, was in my class in London, so I'll get an email together and I'll see if we can make something happen." The next
Wow.
thing you know, I'm on the phone with Eric Clapton's wife, and then Elizabeth and I are actually texting Eric Clapton. I have Eric Clapton's contact in my phone, and he made a lovely, I'd love for everyone to go onto our website and look at the video, heartfelt video that he made about when Connor passed and how it affected him. And then we play the song and we have the slideshow of all of our children in spirit play. So,
Wow. Wow. Just so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you
yeah.
so much.
Yeah, it was very special.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I just feel that so so much. Um, the last couple of questions I have for you is
Mhm.
one, how can people connect with you? And the other is there anything that you do on a regular basis that helps you to stay connected spiritually or
Sure.
that way?
So Helping Parents Heal is the name of the organization. The website is helpingparentsheal.org. We're on Instagram as well. Facebook, we have a very large Facebook presence. If you go onto our website, you can sign up for our email address. There are some people that don't like to be on social media. So if you're on our email list, you'll get a weekly reminder of all of the meetings that are available by Zoom and in person, as well as a monthly newsletter. And again, the wealth of information that's there for Helping Parents Heal. The Facebook group is very active. Elizabeth and I host meetings at least twice a week, usually on a Tuesday and Thursday evening. People join. Sometimes we have mediums doing gallery readings, sometimes we have healers, grief experts, near-death experiencers. We have a lot of different people that speak numerology. It's very fascinating. Channeling, tarot cards, you name it. So you could do that. And then we have lots of chapter meetings that meet online as well. As I said, I'm the co-host of the Only Child, All Our Children group. We have one for children that have passed by fentanyl, children that have passed by illness. Moving forward after suicide is one of our very large groups. We have a Helping Fathers Heal group that has a large presence and they meet weekly. So I encourage everyone to not do it alone. to be in the presence of others. And I really do think that helps. Um, we also have a wonderful group called the Caring Listeners. I think there are about 25 of us. I'm one. Any time of the day or night, you can reach out to one of us. Our phone numbers and our email addresses are on the website. Sometimes people just need to speak to someone, and you can talk to someone, and you can talk to someone. We are listed by how our children pass, just because sometimes, what I've experienced watching my daughter on a cancer journey is different than what you have experienced, even though our children are in spirit.
Right.
So you can talk to someone who's experienced a child passing by an accident or by cancer. So we have a very, very large organization. And I don't remember the other question.
I was just asking how you stay connected. Are there routines that you do to stay connected to?
Um, yes. So I'm constantly reading, constantly watching videos. My new favorite thing to do is some YouTube videos of meditations. I listen to monks chanting, which is
Mm,
just so fascinating. And I go into a real deep, quiet place by doing that, by talking to my loved ones all the time. Um, and just knowing, it's just knowing. I know that when I close my eyes on this side of life, they'll all be right there, and it's just going to be the most joyous reunion. And I try to just be the best person that I can be. I'm a completely different person. I was always wanted to consider myself kind, but I didn't know what compassion meant, or what it meant to feel compassionate towards someone else, until Carly left this earth.
mm, yeah, it changed you.
It changed me. Yeah. I've I did a between life regression years ago, and the regressionist told me in my previous life that I led a life of privilege, and I didn't do a lot of work. So I like to think that I'm making up for it in this incarnation.
It sounds like it. What a wonderful service you provide through the work that you're doing, through the organization. It's just so beautiful, and I just love this space of uh, giving. Um, there's so many people that spend so much time in doubt and feeling, that it's and skepticism and concern, and this is just a beautiful space to be in, a little bit of verification that everything is okay. Like, even though it feels hard, and even though it's challenging, and even though we completely honor people's journey exactly where they are, and recognize that there's no award for, moving through grief the fastest. It's just but having this space where we can have verification of um of good things happening, and is a
Mm.
is a beautiful
Life is
thing.
challenging. It's
Life
very
is
challenging.
challenging.
It is challenging. My husband went through a health scare recently, and we really had a few rough months. And I tuned in with Carly, and she let me know that he was going to be okay, and I really did believe it. And she said, "It's not like me, Mom. It's not like me."
Mm,
And that was very, very comforting.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was a pleasure.
Oh, thank you for having me. And it was so much fun connecting with you last year, and I know we'll continue to connect along the way.
I have to, I just have to mention this. So when we were in Savannah, and I met you, and we talked briefly, and as I was walking away and walking down the hallway, my daughter was whispering my ear, and she was like, "Mom, Carly and Carrie, we're connected." Like, so she was bringing attention to the names, like how similar their names were.
Names
And
are,
she's like,
yeah.
we're connected. So she was like pointing that out
Oh,
to me, which I thought was
oh,
so beautiful. So
wow. And thank
yeah.
you for all that you do.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure. I love these conversations because I feel like, we all have different experiences.
Hmm.
And it's important to hear other people's experiences because it helps us to understand our own experiences. So
Yes.
thanks again for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.